Hello, and this is an overview of the most prominent new features and improvements in the Luxriot Evo software version 1.25. And let's start with case export. Case export is a new mode under playback that allows you to choose custom intervals of time for video export. So another name for case export is asynchronous export, meaning that when you export the footage from a bunch of cameras, you don't have to use exactly same time intervals for every camera, but instead you can adjust them and select the time ranges and add them to your liking. So the workflow goes like this. You select the time intervals in the timeline, then you add the entries to the case. You can also remove them at will. You can enter the case title, create a detailed description, and then if your user doesn't have the elevated rights to do the export itself, then you can simply save the case for future reference. And here I already created some cases. You can open them for editing, reopen them, and then finally, when you're ready to create the video file, then you just click Export Video. And as usual, it will go to the library. So I already have an export job here, so we're going to wait until it's finished. And after the export is complete, you can open the file, and as usual, you can open it right from here using your pre-configured default video player. And you can also use our own portable player to open those files. So as you can see, the video pieces from different cameras, they got exported as a movie, so one after another. And if I had in this case some of the data channels which have the video, which had the video members, I would have the option to export them not as a movie but on the same screen together. So let me see if I have some footage from the post channel here. And let me add this to my case, select the data channel, and add it as an entry. And so here you can see there will be an option to include the related channels. So these are the channels which are bound to the data channel in console as members. So if you don't remember what it is, if I go back to console to my data channels, and I take a look at my data channels, so here in the members tab, you have video channels assigned to the data channel as members, and that means they appear in the monitor app together when you retrieve an event, when you look for a point in the data. Specifically here in case export, they're going to go together, and they will also go together when you use the database search. Another improvement for Evo Monitor is the option to group servers under server connections. So now if you have a lot of servers, you can select some and assign them to a group. And you can add more servers to existing groups. And then when you click connect on the group, then all the servers in the group will start the connection procedure. The next feature, it's in both monitor and console, and so the next feature is related to maps. Is an improvement for map markers. that are channel markers with a zone with this little blue skirt each channel has. So now there's an option to bind the channel to an indicator so that the color is taken from the indicator. So let's see how it's configured in console. I'm not sure if I have any indicators, but I'm going to try to create one. So I've got this map here, and I've got markings, and so my channel marker now has a new field in the properties. It's called two fields actually, so that's a possibility to use the indicator color, and then I can bind an indicator to it. So for example, let me use this, I don't know, temperature indicator, and save. Then I'm gonna go and check the colors of my indicator. There you go, it's called temperature, and it has got some colors. And I'm gonna make sure that I can change the colors. So to change the colors, we can create a couple of user buttons. I'm gonna name them change. So there's gonna be 1 and there's gonna be 2. So 2 is okay. Then I'll go to the configurator to make sure that I change the indicated color. I'm going to use these events to control the indicator state, but normally we would expect that the indicator state is changed based on some external events, like some IoT things, changing states, etc., etc. So let me change that, and let me go back so we can see that the current indicator color is blue, and whatever that means, probably cold. Then I'm gonna go to my user buttons and change temperature, and you can see how the channel, how this area skirt is actually changing color as well. And there is another new feature that is also related to the visualization. And you probably remember we used to have channel shortcuts that allow you to create a colorful area and put it as a video overlay that would serve as a portal that would take you to another video channel when you clicked it. So based on that, we extended those portals to serve as links to virtually any resource in the Evo system. So let's see how it works. I've got two channels here. So iPro number 3, number 2. I'm gonna go to console, go to channel configuration, and I've got number 2 and number 3. Is that right? So in the video overlays, I'm gonna go inside, and then you'll see that there is a new icon. It's not like an addition, but it's a replacement, because previously we had only channel shortcuts, and then now we have generic shortcuts. So what you do, you place the shortcut. It also has we have preserved the historical shape of those, and so it's still possible to create rectangular or squared shortcuts. But here on the right in the properties table, you will notice that there is a new field that allows you to choose the shape, and you can change the shape to polygon, and you can add new points, and those can act as shortcuts to other resources, not just channels. So here we have channels, we've got layouts, we've got data channels. So let me pick the data channel here. And as a label, so that I know where the portal leads, so as a label, I can either use the name of the related resource, or I can say, take me to the data channel. So let's save this and see what it looks like. So it's going to appear in a second, I guess. And there we go. So now when you click it, then voila, we have the data channel. Is empty. I'm just so sorry. This is an empty channel here. So we're gonna try once again. No, it's empty. It's not working. Sorry. So let's try another one. Let's try this eyebrow number 3 and put a shortcut on it. So I've got video overlays. I'll put just another one here. Add more points to it. Sorry, my mouse is not perfect. So maybe match it to something in the background and adjust it, and maybe I need more points. There we go. I need more points. And there we go, right? Maybe just one more here, okay. And then I'm gonna change it to, I don't know, like my colors orange today. So here's my clickable area, and so once I've created the area, what I can do, I can click this magical button here right next to the recycle bin, and I can copy it and assign a different channel, a different resource to it. So I've got 2 now. Let me just make it 2 Pacmans, okay. And the orange Pacman is going to take me to the affected web page. Hopefully it's working. And the green one is going to take me to another map, for example. And one more thing, I'm going to add a little user button here. So let me leave it rectangular. Let me make it pink. Let me make it square. And I'm going to take it to the user button. And it's going to change the temperature. Oh, okay, let me put my user buttons, my temperature changing user buttons right here, and I'm gonna make sure that they have titles. And maybe it's a better idea to make them horizontal, and then make sure they lead to different resources. So when you copy the visual element here, the resource also gets copied, so don't forget to change it in the properties. So then I'm going to save it here, go back to monitor, bring up my map that uses the indicator so that we can see the color actually changing, and then we will do that by clicking the user buttons as channel overlays. Isn't that exciting? I would like to point out here that if the action related to the user button is not immediately visible, like in this case, the visual area itself in the channel, it doesn't visualize that the user button has been triggered. This is something we're going to improve in the future, but I just needed to remember that there is no need to go like click, 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 click to change it, to try and trigger the user button. It is actually triggered, and you will see that it's triggered in the alert section, in the alerts tab of the monitor app. And let's check my other 2 shortcuts. So Pacman number 1 brings up effectively. Here we go. And Pacman number 2 takes me to the map. And there we are. So the next one, so let's move from monitor to console. The next exciting stuff is in console, and it's related to user management. I think you remember that we've already implemented the user disable time, like account expiration time, but now we've also added account activation time. So now it's possible to control when when a specific user account is activated and deactivated. So in future, we're gonna attach some schedules to it. But right now, it's possible to set individual times for each user, and then. Uh, the question is, when you deactivate a user, when the account expires, or when you change the password explicitly here from console, or if the user uses OAuth, then if their token expires, do we need to disconnect that user immediately, or do we let them keep the current session? And the answer is, we've got server-side policies here in the global server settings under security policy. You scroll down, and there are four new features, four new options in here. Whether you want to disconnect the users that got deactivated, and they're all independent, right? So upon password change, when the password expires, and if the external authentication token is reset. So you can control all that individually, right? So I'm not going to show that as an example. So I hope you can visualize in your head how the user session is terminated, right? And since we were talking about users, well, technically I was talking, there is a little improvement. So now we're into the improvement section of the release notes. There is now finally a Membership and Resources tab for the anonymous user. So it wasn't there previously, so it was a bit hard to assign the permissions for the anonymous user. So we had to do it through from the resources point of view, from the channels point of view normally. So now we can also do it in the opposite direction from the anonymous users resources tab here. So this is the improvement number one. So let me see what else is there. Yeah, so then we've also upgraded support for the integration with NetApp Access Control. We now support the latest version, 2023. Then we've also improved our integration for iPro Panasonic CCTV keyboard. And it actually, so this improvement is now like full support, and there is a separate little document that describes the usage, the workflow. But there is also actually a new feature in console that I haven't mentioned that is related to that, and it's called quick access. So the workflow with the CCTV keyboard, specifically with the Panasonic CCTV keyboard, is that they want to they want to search for channels, search for cameras to put them on the screen from the keyboard, and they can only input numbers, so they cannot filter by camera names. So what we did is a nice little feature here. It's another resource in console. It's called quick access item, which means you can assign any ID, a shorter one. You can make it like 100, or you can call it, I don't know, camera even number one or something. No, let me set it to 100 and assign it to my, I don't know, favorite camera. So instead of writing PTZ, or instead of remembering what the camera name was every time, I can now address this channel by this quick access ID in my monitor app. So I'm not using the Panasonic keyboard right now, but what I can do from my Windows keyboard is hit Control F, So you just have to believe me. And it's a mappable command. It can be changed in the application settings. And search for 100, and there we go. There is my camera, right? And what else can be done from the same window? So on the right side, there are filters. So the blue ones are enabled. So quick access is these quick access items defined by console. And then title is like normal channel title. I can still search by titles, right? And then IDs, which is disabled by default, is the internal console IDs. If I enable that, that means I can search also using those. So we've disabled them by default because they are less likely to be like remembers. Like no one remembers the internal IDs, right? Of the channels and of the maps. So we've disabled them by default. One more important thing about the workflow is that uh, the channel that is popped up is popped up in the currently selected viewport. So if you need the channel to go to a specific viewport, you need to place the yellow frame in there, then click Control F, then search for your resource, and then click to get it put into the desired viewport. And from here, you can also, so this is not limited to channels, and you can also search for user buttons for the, for example, temperature changing user buttons. So just click them to, let me demonstrate that it works. You just put the map here and then call it again. And so my temperature changing and user button, and then click OK, and there we go, the indicator state changes. So that's the quick access items, which were a part of the improved integration for the iPro CCTV keyboard. Then let's move on again to console. It's not like a new feature, but it is a recent improvement. You probably remember in 1.24, we already had a new section in the audit log. So now we're moving on to troubleshooting. And it's called problems, and it's not actually a new section. So like servers and users are actually two types of events which are present in the audit log, but the problem section, it's not a separate category of events. Rather, it displays the most important issues from those two, but mostly from the server section. um, Previously, some of these events didn't exist before, and some of them, they were accessible from the Windows audit Windows event log, and that's pretty inconvenient when you're troubleshooting a remote machine over just using the console connection. So in order for the user um, to be able to troubleshoot just using console and not RDP or TeamViewer, we've moved those important events also to here. So things like server restarted by Watchdog are now also visible in console. They will be highlighted. They will be present in the server's event as well, but they will be highlighted in the problem section because these problems are potentially important. And other types of events which are present here, they're actually listed in the documentation, and they're listed in the release notes. So these are events related to configuration loading errors, disk excluding, recording errors, so stuff like that. So stuff that could potentially undermine the normal system operation. And this is not the end. We've got one more feature related to audit. Is more like a new feature, but we counted it as like an improvement to the existing logging of archive playback. So the scenario is when you're browsing, when you're an operator and you're playing back the archive, and you're accessing the footage, and I have no recordings probably from that camera, but when you're accessing the archive, when you're playing it back, it's just in another day. So right here, so you're playing it here and there, and maybe you're an operator, so you're an operator and you were supposed to access the recordings from today, but then you went and explored something that happened yesterday and you weren't supposed to do that in the line of work maybe. And anyways, but even if that was legit, your manager wants to know which parts of the archive were accessed. And this is where we have a new feature here, and it's called Detailed Archive Access Audit. And it's disabled by default, and it's a system-wide setting in the server settings. So in case of the global system, in the global server settings under storage, in the storage tab. So you need to enable the detailed audit and then set the interval at which the user's action will be audited. And if we take a look in the audit log under users, so there will be events that indicate when exactly the archive was accessed. Finally, so yeah, I'm gonna skip those small things like we fixed the GSM modems. And they are now added into the configuration when you import the configuration from the database. But do remember that you need to adjust the COM ports, the serial ports on the imported device, because they are not ported automatically, because we can know not beforehand which port is going to be used. Then also an internal thing, like we've added support for channels and shared layouts pop-up when the monitor is connected directly to recording servers. And let me finish with monitoring. Maybe this is not a big improvement itself, but it's quite important for troubleshooting the analytics behavior. And I'm talking about EVA built in, the one which is built into Evo right here. So here under channels, there is now a bunch of columns here in the very end that allow you to track and analyze the analytics behavior. So I actually have something here on the very top. So, and these are various statistics related to the EVA. The last result of the detector, whether it's currently running on CPU or GPU, the target detection rate, the actual detection rate. So if the actual detection rate is lower, then it probably means that the system is running out of the CPU or GPU resources. Then you have the average processing time, the number of processed frames, etc., etc. So if you don't need them, just remove them by clicking this settings here, and then you just select all of those if you don't need them, and just move them, and then you don't have them in console. But if you need to troubleshoot, then you can go back to the settings at any time and bring them back. And that's the end of my today's story. If you've got questions, please feel free to contact me anytime.